My recollection of the deportation of the Mexican nationals back to Mexico is not a particularly happy one, because I felt that these fellow residents of the county were being pretty arbitrarily handled, and perhaps at times with grave economic injustice to them and their families.
Start by telling me where you're from first. From Los Angeles, California. When were you born? April 10th, 1926.
Well, I'm from the state of Zacatecas, and I come from a little ranch by the name of Salitral. And we came to the United States about 1917.
Well, my dad didn't have much school. My dad was in school, and he had to quit school because his father died, which I think my grandfather was a bricklayer too. He was probably a cement mason and a rock mason and or stone mason and a bricklayer by trade too. So he must have taught my dad the trade, and he was the oldest one. So when his father died, my dad had to quit school to support the family.
Well, in the first place, my father did not want to remain in Mexico on account of the revolution. He told, after my grandfather had passed away, then he told my grandmother that that was no place for a human being to live in under those conditions, Like you couldn't know whether you'd be killed from one day to the other, so we all came over to the United States.
The repatriation was, as I recall, carried out by the welfare department of the county. The program of repatriating the Mexican nationals was accepted by the county and accepted by, you might say, the general public.
They just wanted to get rid of Mexican people, and they would send them back to whatever state they came from. Right now they've been doing it with the so-called wetbacks. They get arrested, they put them on a plane and plane them down to their hometown, and 2-3 weeks after they're here again, see?
The community was very anxious to get rid of as many of these Mexicans as possible because of the welfare costs. And they had this long list of Mexican nationals who hadn't taken out citizenship papers, and they persuaded them that their interest was assured by going back to their own country.
I guess a lot of people had to be on welfare. Although some people are so proud nowadays to admit that they were on welfare, during the Depression. But I mean, what is there to be ashamed of? We weren't the only ones that were on welfare. There was lots of families that were on welfare.
During the Depression, it was very obvious that they didn't want to support the people here, that's all.
and the Chamber of Commerce people and the tax-paying interests. So we're afraid that our welfare loads were going to get so big that it'd be unbearable. They wanted to save money.
Entre menos burros, más solotes. That means the less mouths you have to feed, while your what you call your cupboard will have more food. You understand?
Material motivation was stronger than the humanitarian motivation.
After my mother died, I guess my dad was pretty sad, and that he was left with a family, a couple of children to raise and no wife and no work, living off of welfare, and he had a trade, where he could work, if the work was available, but maybe he thought he should go back to his country.
Whether or not they use legal terms to get the people to move, or whether they took advantage of their ignorance and without using legal terms thought that they had to go, is a question that I can't answer, but I suspect that it was the latter.
I remember leaving, that we went to the station, and I think I remember being on the train.
I'll tell you about it. A lot of these people here that were sent to Mexico, some were sent by ship, and some of them were sent by railroad, by the sea or by the railroad. But the thing is this, that it's unconstitutional. They should have never have sent those people to Mexico, because they were sending out the citizens of the United States to Mexico. All those children had their rights, and when they became of age, they had the right to go to the American consul in Mexico and demand to be sent over to the United States, because they were citizens of the United States. They were United States born.
That would be the natural procedure if you didn't have legal authorization. Natural procedure, if you wanted to get rid of them, it would be to make them think they were here illegally, or they hadn't. You see, when you're dealing with poor people without much education, you can, under circumstances like this, you can put over your program without necessarily having all the legal authority to do so.
But we arrived in Gomez Palacio, Durango, and we went to live with some relatives of my father. I don't know how long we lived there. There was another place too. I mean, there were hardships, they're living in the ranch. We had to carry water and walk for miles for the water, and you had to go get water over there where the pumps were. You know, where they were pumping water out for irrigation. Used to carry water in cans on top of your head. You know, I had to do all that. There was no reason for me to go through all this. I mean, that was rough. If they hadn't sent us to Mexico, we wouldn't have had to go through all these hardships. I mean, there was no reason for us to do this because we were American citizens.
How can you be deported if you're a bona fide citizen of a nation? You can't be deported.
Oh, and I got sick there when I was living there with them. And they used to say that I was atiriciada. I guess something like depressed. Maybe I was homesick.
People will claim, they say, well, see, I'm American, I'm a full-blooded American and everything like that. But they don't look into their background, see? They should look into their background before they even start to talk, whether they're Americans or Chinese or anything.
So my dad says, well, he says, why don't you go back to the United States, you know, and arrive in the United States in your native Los Angeles, you know, for your birthday. He said, gee, that'd be nice, which I did. And when I came, you know, it wasn't easy for me to come, you know, by myself because, you know, I was a young girl and you know how it is, you know, that especially when you're brought up that you should watch out for this guy and watch out for that guy, you know, when you're a young girl. I was a little bit frightened to come to, you know, on my own to the United States. I don't remember now if my father came with me or, you know, to bring me to Juarez or if I came on my own now. I think I came on my own, all the way by myself. So when I was close to the border, you know, the immigration gets on, you know, the Mexican immigration, and they ask you if you have your tourist card. What tourist card was I going to have? So I had to pay the money for a tourist card, you know, because according to them, I was a tourist. Can you imagine me, a tourist all those years over there? I wouldn't call that a life of a tourist.
You can enslave a person, but you cannot enslave his mind. That's why I said that you can't judge the Mexican people by groups or anybody. We're just human beings. If we were created the way we are, well, it was no fault of ours.
Repatriation of these Mexicans, same piece of cloth, you see, the same, all a part of the same philosophy. Failure to recognize citizen rights and human rights. And I suppose you would say it was represented the alarm, almost a panic. The people who were here in California and who were in control of local government and state government felt when the Depression and the war came on.
Well, I don't like it. I don't think I'll ever like it. I mean, the way I was made to suffer. I feel that this country should have done something for their citizens instead of getting rid of them like the way they did. And I mean, it's the whole country involved, I'm sure. I don't think it's just one state. You can't just blame the county, or you can't just blame the state. You have to blame the whole government.
But the more you analyze it, the more it's all a part of the same mistaken psychology, that's part of the same failure to recognize the broad human rights that exist, whether you're rich or poor, Japanese, American, American, or Mexican, or Indian.
I feel that I'm a human being. I'm no less than anybody else, and nobody's better than I am. It's always been like that, and it will always be like that. The only way you can erase my thoughts and my conduct is by destroying me. That's why the world is the way it is, because the waves of human beings just keep revolving, see?
Audacity at times that when a government is in power, the audacity that a government can have is really quite amazing. I don't think they could get away with it today.